Hello and welcome to Eco Girl in a Modern World. My name is Shelley and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. This channel is dedicated to talking about modern topics that pertain to environmental sustainability, but how to do that in a modern way. Now, last video we talked about things that I buy new, and I decided to change gears a little bit and get back into the vibe of things. It was a long video last time, so we're gonna go into something another topic that's been on my mind for a little bit. Today we're gonna talk about laundry. What inspired this topic, and it's really been on the back burner for a while now, is that in the last video I talked about a lot of trends that are out there, especially with clothes. And with the influencer culture and with the advent of social media, there are 52 micro seasons. Yes, it's very fast fashion, where just about every week there's a new trend or something that's becoming a trend, and that becomes a source of a lot of mass overproduction of clothes. But what we do to counteract that is that if we try to, again, I have what I call my basic rules of buying clothing, where if you try to buy vintage, try to buy pre-owned, or, vintage would be something 30 years old, or try to just buy pre-owned and not new. Definitely you want to buy organic fabrics like silk, cotton, organic cotton, wool, hemp, or I said silk, but basically anything that is a natural biodegradable fiber, because synthetic fibers like polyester and acrylic are horrible for the environment because they shed microplastics. Now, in the last video, we talked about the speed of those trends, and I actually mentioned another really great influencer here, a fashion vlogger here on YouTube named Reid. Now, I just want to preface this. If I mention any fashion channels on my channel, that is the utmost of respect. If I'm following you, if I'm watching your videos, I love your show, babe. And there's really about 4 channels that I kind of watch, but one of them is Reid, and I had mentioned I really love her channel, and shout out to her, because even though she does post videos about buying fast fashion and things like that, she does talk in a very authentic way. She's very easy to emote with, and she does talk about the realism of not buying into a trend or buying into something that doesn't look good on you, and that really does play into sustainability. I also wanted to apologize because I did misquote her periodically. She had mentioned that florals were in for spring, but I had said that small florals were in, and strike that, reverse it. She had said that big florals, like almost like watercolor big florals, are in for spring, and that is true. That is true according to all of the outlets. And again, I don't live by the trends. If I see something that I like, I will go for it. Also, I'm a big fan of the 80s and 90s. So if really a lot of the aughts, or a lot of the trends that play back to more kind of, I can't judge it because I have plenty of fashion trends that are not the most sustainable, as you will see on my channel. But I like her tone, and I like the way that she comes across, and she's always very well dressed and very real and very kind, and and I love her show. So definitely another really great content creator worth checking out here on YouTube. But in one of her most recent videos, she did talk about wardrobe essentials, and that is very, very important. I stress that a lot here. A lot of channels talk about shopping your closet, about going to what you already have, using the staples that you already have in your closet. And one huge part of that is, and that Reid has mentioned before, is laundry. Maintaining the staples that you have. And maintaining the staples that you have is making sure that, one, that you buy it high quality, that it's not a cheap piece, and that definitely rules out fast fashion, which goes in the sustainability direction. The other thing is, if you get a rip or a tear or something happens, if you need to have something hemmed, you do that, you have it tailored. But the third most important thing is, how often do you launder it? How do you launder it? And what do you use to wash your clothes? So that's what we're going to talk about today, which is a big topic. Big topic. So first and foremost, when you wash your clothes, okay, so we're going to start with organic fabrics. Now, when you buy a quality piece, because we've talked about staples, ideally when you look at your closet, so what happens is, like out of 100% of your closet, you wear 20% of your closet 80% of the time. The other thing is you really want 80% of your closet to be staples and 20% of your closet to be statement pieces. And we talked about this in the last video and a couple other videos. Essentials or staples are things that you can intermix and intermatch. They're trans-seasonal. They're not just for spring, not just for fall. They're not just the crazy poof sleeve or, wild trend out there in left field. Now, and this is not to knock the fashion industry. We're all here because we love fashion. I mean, seriously. Another great influencer here on YouTube talked about how fashion is art in motion. And sometimes it can get a little freaky looking. It can get very freaky looking. You look at it and you think, okay, what in the hell was this, designer thinking? But really what you want to do is the point of fashion is the core of it is you defining your personal style. You define who you are by what you wear. And if you have those staples that show the shapes or the designs that define you, that dovetail into the trend, doesn't have to be an exact match for the weird, really out there interpretations of fashion. Those are going to be the staples that you can wear for a long time and will stand the test of time. Now, what we want to do is, from an environmental standpoint, is you definitely want to buy organic fabrics. I've mentioned before in my fabrics video, anything synthetic like polyester or acrylic, those shed microplastics. Every single time you wash them, they put little itty bitty pieces, almost like glitter, into the water supply, and water treatment plants can't get those out. We can't filter that fine enough, and then it gets into our waters, it gets into our oceans, gets into our fish. We eat our fish. They found microplastics in bloodstreams. The other thing is that polyester is synthetic. It's created with chemicals. It can make your skin break out, and your skin is a biome. It's fighting off the chemicals that you're putting against your body. So first and foremost, you want to buy pieces that are of organic fabrics that biodegrade. Now, in the same vein, part of our eco rules is that you want to buy secondhand. So now, but what happens is when you buy these quality pieces, whether it's firsthand, secondhand, you want to wear them 30 times. You really want to wear them out and make them last. But of course, when you do that, you're going to have to launder them, And there's some fabrics that you don't have to wash as often, which, comes with experience and comes with time. And Anna Reid said that too. She goes, gosh, when I was young and inexperienced, I expected it to wear it once. It was synthetic. I didn't know how to wash it. I either overwashed it or underwashed it. So of course, the first thing that you want to do is look at the material and try to go for organic, natural fibers, and figure out how to wash it, right? Now, of course, organic cotton is the best. Organic cotton is grown without any pesticides. And then regular cotton is a good alternative too, but that's grown with a lot of pesticides that takes a lot of water to grow cotton. And then when pesticides are involved, that hurts ground quality, that hurts water quality. You really do want to go organic when you can. But cotton is an excellent, easy to launder fiber. You pretty much wash, hang up, or dry on medium or low. Very versatile, very easy, great for bedding, great for body, and it breathes. The other thing is all these fibers that we talk about that are natural breathe really well, and that helps go a long way from preventing allergies and giving your skin anything else that it has to combat or fight. Now, another really great fiber that we're going to talk about in a minute is silk. Silk is fantastic, and we're going to talk about a few silk wool combinations. That's just your best bet. Now, silk is not cruelty free. It is cruel to spiders because it is boiling silkworm, cocoons. So it's not completely vegan. But of course, it's been around for millennia. You know, royalty has worn silk forever, and it launders really well. Now, I'll even tell you, I was in the market for some pajamas because I really wear out my pajamas, and a few of my pajamas getting really threadbare, but I went to the thrift store and I found a gorgeous pair of Banana Republic, and I know they're more of a mass-produced, the labor for these mainstream stores is not good, and I'm not proud of that, but I did find it in a secondhand store for about $15, 100% silk pajama bottoms. And gosh, guys, when you just wash those on regular cold water with detergent, you can, I actually have a vent. I have a vent in my bathroom that I can hang up. And it's so wonderful because that saves on energy, because you just hang the garment over the vent, and just the right amount of heat, and especially now in the winter, comes up, or it dries so quickly, and it's so comfortable, and it's good for the skin. Silk is really good for the skin. Now, another one, today was a real snowy day. You can kind of see I'm actually wearing a yak and regular wool sweater. This was actually inspired by a few Pinterest posts that I had seen that had how to style a gray wool sweater. And this thing is wonderful. Today in my state, it was like 35 degrees, and I bust this out anytime it gets really cold like that. It breathes like a dream, and it also keeps you so warm. Wool is such a wonderful effect for that. And even if it sheds like even though it sheds particles, those are biodegradable fabrics. Again, it's the hair of an animal, right? It's the hair of an alpaca. It's the hair of a yak or a sheep. Now, the beautiful thing about wool is that, you don't have to launder it as often. And when you don't launder it as often, you have to be careful with how you launder it, because wool can pill. That's the disadvantage. It seems like one of the other reasons that we turn to synthetic fabrics so much is because we think, oh, they're just easier. I can just wash and hang up. But polyester is plastic. It sheds microplastics. It doesn't biodegrade. It'll be 750 years trying to go into the ground, and the whole time it'll be leaking chemicals into your ground when you throw it away. So, but if you buy a wool shirt, yes, it is more maintenance, but it keeps you warm, and then it does biodegrade. Now, the problem is that natural wool, as you've probably seen since the 50s, is that it's the hair of an animal, so it does shed. It does something called pilling. It has little balls that, especially with friction, when you rub it, like when you see the inside of this, or when I go in and out of a coat, the abrasion of me, rubbing against it starts to peel off little pieces, little fur balls. And I actually had this happen. I had bought a beautiful magenta sweater off eBay secondhand, and it was so pretty. I was really into my color blocking phase, and I'm really been into magenta too. Before it was Pantone Color of the Year, last year, you can see my previous videos. I was onto this before Pantone was. I thought of it first, honestly. But I was really into color blocking, and I love the navies and the magentas. And I found this sweater secondhand on eBay. I got it, and it was 100% wool, and it was beautiful. But my thing is, I kind of do a sniff check. And not to be weird, if I can smell kind of perspiration on something, that means it needs to be washed. Now, wool, you honestly don't have to wash as often, but this magenta sweater, when I went to wash it, it was a big pill ball. It was shedding like crazy. It was driving me crazy. And I was like, no, okay, this is going to be a pain in the butt piece. I can't live with this, right? And that's one pitfall of wool. It can be like that. You have to find a piece that is either of a quality wool or a blend of wool, and we'll get into that in a minute, that is easy to maintain. Because, again, if you're going to do the environmentally friendly thing, it's going to have to be easy or somewhat easy. It can't be shedding all over the place. So basically, this magenta sweater did end up getting donated. I was like, I can't deal with this. But one thing that I found, okay, just real quick, circling back, not to jump around, but the gray sweater that I have on now is fairly easy to launder. I don't wash it that often because it's 100% wool and yak. And the yak in it makes it very soft, and it doesn't pill as bad. Like, it doesn't pill as bad as the magenta sweater. But I do have to be careful with the way I launder it. Now, in the description box, I'm going to post 2 videos from the Gentleman's Gazette, which is technically, it's a guy's channel. It's a guy's channel, but I love their posts because they really do go into descriptions of how to take care of high quality garments, because man or woman, if you have a 100% wool jacket or 100% wool sweater, which a lot of garments are made of, and in this video, it talks about how to launder a wool sweater, and you almost have to kind of roll it up. You got to turn it inside out and kind of roll it up. Again, you want to avoid that friction that causes it to pill. And then when it comes out of the washer, you put it on a gentle cycle with a gentle detergent, and then you hang it up. Or if you have one of those contraptions where you can line dry. I like to kind of lay it out on a cotton towel. Because again, I want all of my methods to try to be as biodegradable. I don't need a big polyester tent-like contraption to try to air dry my stuff. I try to use wooden hangers and cotton towels, and honestly, I don't have to launder this very often. And when I do, it's only when that sniff check, if it smells like, okay, I might have sweated in this too much, now it's time to wash. And that is another good consideration. If you feel like you only worn it once, and Reid talked about this, if you felt like if you change outfits quite a few times, if you really only worn it once for 30 minutes and it was a cool day, if you felt like if it's not dirty, if it's really not dirty, you don't have to wash it. But if it's starting to get dirty, if it's wool or whatever the fabric is, if you can smell it, or if it seems like, okay, gosh, I really did kind of sweat in this, you want to go ahead and wash it. Now, one other thing that you can get around the wool, where you can get the best of both worlds, is that there is cashmere garments. Now, cashmere garments, and I'll post another video by the Gentleman's Gazette below that talks about the difference in the quality. Cashmere is more expensive, but it's longer fibers, and it's more durable fibers. It doesn't pill as much, and even if it's thin, that's the other thing, is it's still wool. And it's deceptive because when it's really thin like that, you think, oh, okay, that couldn't possibly keep me warm, but it's cashmere wool. It will absolutely keep you warm with the thinnest amount of material. And just like regular wool, you don't have to launder it as often. Now, in the video you'll see before, and I liked this part in the Gazette, Gentleman's Gazette video, they talk about some of the environmental impacts. The animals that produce cashmere wool, their hooves really kind of, it comes from an area in the desert that really, the way the animals dig up when they walk, their hooves dig into the ground, it affects the environmental quality in that area. So it seems like everything in moderation is the way to go. The moment you start mass producing any material, it's going to have like an over leaching effect on the ground. But it's in Mongolia, and you've probably heard of the Mongols. That it's a cold climate, and you think of fur, parkas and stuff like that. That's where a lot of cashmere wool comes from. But it's a fantastic fiber, and that video talks about the different qualities of it, the different levels. So when you pay more for like a really high quality cashmere, your money's going in a good place. Now, to bridge into that, there are mixtures of 2 fibers. So we talked about silk earlier, and we're talking about cashmere. I actually went to the thrift store and found another Banana Republic, and I know if you go to Good On You, the labor force behind that is not paid a living wage. So I'm not proud of that, but I did find this at a thrift store. And the other thing I've talked about thrifting. The great thing about thrifting is sometimes you will go in there and you'll spend less than $10 on something that costs over $125 because no one cares about the quality of fabric. So you'll look at a cashmere sweater and go, oh, that feels like polyester. I found this sweater. And again, the other sweater that I bought off eBay was shedding and pilling, and it was pilling bad, and it was driving me crazy. I finally said, okay, I can't deal with this. I just want a sweater in the same color. I went to my thrift store and found another one for $7.99. And guys, it's silk and cashmere. It is a silk cashmere blend. And this thing is fantastic. I've noticed that when you mix, and I know in previous videos I talked about things being 100%. 100% silk is fantastic, but when you do a silk wool blend, what that would mean is that if you tried to recycle it, it would be hard to separate the two fibers. But if it's silk and it's wool, both of those are biodegradable fabrics, so really it's a win-win. And gosh, guys, this thing keeps me warm. It launders so easily. It does not pill. I just turn it inside out and throw it. I actually turn it inside out, and because it's kind of a pink color, I throw it in with my silk pillowcases. So I wash it just like the way I wash all of my red load on delicate. And then I hang it up the same way that I hang up my silk pants. I hang it up over that vent, and it dries really fast. And I promise you, I Google searched the image, and I paid $7.99 for that top at the thrift store, and it retailed for $125 because it's cashmere. I saw the original price. It's fantastic. I love that sweater. And it's funny, I love wearing it on like 50 or 60 degree days. I don't need a coat. And it's really beautiful, and it's a pretty V-neck. It's very flattering to the décollage. So, it's very feminine. And, so if you can find quality pieces like that, go for it. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about, and the big point of this video, is that, while a lot of things are easy to launder, and some things more difficult to launder, what you use to wash is the most important thing. And I've talked before about, the number of bottles. You think about the number of bottles of water bottles that go into a landfill. And what happens is regular recycling only recycles about 7% of everything. So everything you throw into the recycle bin is really what we call what environmentalists refer to as wish cycling. When you throw it in the blue bin, if there's any food residue, if it is a black piece of plastic, if it has any residue from the contents of what's in the bottle, the chances of that container being recycled is very low. Even if you rinse it out, the chemicals that were in whatever the contents of the bottle is going to taint the ability for the manufacturer to recycle it. And this is a big bone of contention, because really the responsibility for recycling should fall onto the manufacturers. The people who are selling you the product should be responsible for how their containers go back into the earth and don't end up in a landfill. But only about 7 or 8%, 8% out of 100, less than 1/10 of all the recycling we throw into that blue bin for the recycling man to pick up actually gets recycled. And when it comes to laundry, the number one big one, and here, let me just pull this out for a second. This is not my bottle. I went dumpster diving. Is this. Look how huge this bottle is. And what we're going to start with is, look, powerfully clean, naturally fresh. The greenwashing kills me. Anytime someone says natural, you best believe that shit, I need to wash my hands after I touch this, because none of the contents of that bottle is natural. Not even freaking close. And what happens is, you see a lot of companies that, first off, laundry detergent. Laundry detergent is horrible. It's bright blue, it's bright pink, and the reason that it is that ungodly, unnatural color is because it's full of chemicals. The other thing is that it's 80% water. So it's 20% really toxic chemicals mixed with a bunch of water that you can get from your washing machine. You don't need to you don't need to pay for that big ass bottle. Pardon my French. Now the other thing is that bottle, just like we talked about, doesn't get recycled very easily. It has a bunch of chemicals in the detergent. And when you think, okay, I can throw it into the recycling bin and it'll just go to the magical recycling plant that will turn it into something new, no. The contents, and we'll see in a minute, the contents of laundry detergent make that impossible. So a lot of these bottles just go to the recycling plants, go into landfills, and worse, go to landfills in other countries where it's just leaking all of that toxic crap into the ground. Now we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to throw up a screenshot of the actual, chemicals that are in detergent. Now, it's funny, a long time ago, I think it was in the 90s, there was this cute commercial for Breyer's ice cream where this little girl was reading the ingredients list off the back of her ice cream container. And, she was trying to read polycarbonate or something, right? And I feel like that little girl every single time I look at laundry detergent ingredients. It's like, she reads the ingredients off like a non-natural ice cream brand, and then she reads the ingredients off Breyer's, and it's like, cream, milk, sugar, and the difference is very noticeable, right? So as we get through this, it's kind of like that. Why isn't the ingredients of this just something that you can not only pronounce but know what's in it, right? The other side of it is that you don't need a plastic bottle for that. You don't need a big old plastic bottle, to contain 80% water and 20% chemicals. Now, the other thing that irritates me about this kind of marketing is that powerful clean. I'll also take us back to the 90s, and you would think that I get irritated. You would think with our level of education that you would think we would be evolving to be a little bit more woke with this. But back in the 90s, you talk about kaboom. There was this, I forget his name, Mike something, where he would go, powerful clean. Look, it bubbles, it oxidizes, it takes all of that lime right off. I refer to these, powerful clean, big old non-recyclable bottles as the kaboom. It's unnecessary. Because let's go ahead and look at it. Let's go ahead and start just like the little Breyer's ice cream girl. Let's try to read some of this. The first thing is water. When you look at a list of ingredients, the whatever's listed first is going to be the biggest content. So it's a majority water. The next thing is sodium lauryl sulfate. Sodium lauryl sulfate is SLES, ELES, and it has a nefarious history. You talk about, and I'll go into this more when we talk about skincare and self-care. A lot of shampoos have sulfates in it, and you see how there's a movement to go sulfate free. Sulfates are a cleansing agent, but the thing with sulfates is sulfur. You hear the word sulfur in it. Sulfur is a chemical. It's a very aggressive chemical. It is a carcinogenic. And there are so many reports. The other thing is that you think, okay, powerful clean, I'm super cleaning my clothes. Why do you need to use that much force on your clothes? Your clothes, if they're made of polyester, if you're wearing acrylic crap, all you're doing is rubbing or throwing a really toxic chemical on that and shedding even more microplastics or overwashing it. It's like trying to swat a fly with a machine gun. Why do you need that much force to clean your clothes? They're not that dirty. The other thing is that if it is natural fibers, you're breaking down the natural fibers because you're throwing really nasty chemicals on it that is degrading that fabric quicker. And you hear that too, like, oh, I try not to wash it because it fades. And why do you think it fades? Why do you think it becomes thread-borne? You're throwing kaboom shit on it. Pardon my French. You're putting nasty, nasty chemicals. Now, the other thing with sulfates that is really, really bad is that we are just dumping this into our water supply. This stuff is only touching your clothes for the wash cycle, and then you're throwing it, it's filtering it straight to the water filtration plant. Now, I saw an article, and not to be gloom and doom, but I saw an article about Arizona about how they had to shut down their water supply. They ran out of water. And they literally have to, when you hear about this, water plants turning off for whatever reason, and people needing to boil water, I like to think of it this way. If you didn't have your lovely water plant filtering out all the crap that we put into it, if you had to live with the water that, with the wastewater that you produce, if the stuff that you wash down the drain, if you had to drink that, if you had to wash your eyes, put that on your face, to wash your face and your body, would you want this ingredients list to be in that water? If we reached the scary, zombie apocalypse tomorrow, if we have fungi, brain eating, whatever coming in tomorrow, and we did not have our water filtration plants, what you dump down the drain would you want to be drinking or trying to filter out of your drinking water? That's what you have to ask yourself. Now, with sulfites, the reason that this is a heavy question is because this only touches your clothes for a bit for the wash cycle, and then you're just washing it straight down the drain. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't sit in your clothes. The residue of it in your clothes, or if you use too much laundry detergent, you know how it smells, like the fragrance, and we'll get into that in a minute, that stays in your clothes and that stays against your skin. So just like we've talked about the material being an irritant against your skin, sulfites are an irritant against the skin. They're also carcinogenic. They cause cancer. They alter your genes. They alter the cells in your body. The other thing that has been coming up is that everything that we pour down the drain, especially our laundry detergent, also sits in waterways. If our water filtration plants can't get it out of the water supply, it goes into rivers, it goes into oceans. And guess what? They have found alligators and other animals that just sit in this water, live in this water, starting to have sexual reproductive problems because it is altering, it's mutating their genes. The other thing is that it's not just, and you think, oh, alligators are mean, I don't care about them. Well, think about manatees. We have seen fish that have, when we wash antidepressants down, believe it or not, this is crazy, antidepressants, traces of that have been found in wastewater, and it's starting to dope up our fish. Yeah. Whatever you use in your laundry detergent gets out into the world. We are not apart from nature, we are a part of nature. If you wouldn't want to filter it out of your own drinking water, don't use it to wash your clothes. But sulfites are really bad for that, and you've heard a lot of it, and I'll post a few videos, and it's not to be gloom and doom, it's just, let's be woke about this. Do you really need to kaboom your clothes? The other thing is that a lot of our clothes have stretch to it, like elastics. This stuff deteriorates that. It makes your clothes not last as long. So it's a lose-lose-lose. You're stressing your clothes with how stringent these detergents are. You're creating a waste. It's not good to be against your skin, and it's not good for water life. Don't use it. Don't use it. And there's a few other ones. Let's see here. This is me being the little girl on the Breyer's commercial, but acylbenzyl sulfonate. I'm saying that all wrong, but you can see sulfur in the name. Acrylic acid homopolymer, disodium distrobylobiphenol, disulfonate, a lot of sulfonates, and then fragrances. And the other thing is it just says fragrances, and you don't know what's in that either. I actually saw an article recently that talked about when we get into dryer sheets, you don't need your stuff to smell good. Those fragrances, it's like the stuff that's in Febreze. Febreze is it's all toxic. It's completely toxic. It smells like carcinogenic plastic strawberries. Why do you need your clothes to smell like that? You could use perfume after you wash them. You know, go with the fragrance-free options. That's a good way to go. But basically, this entire list is just, it's deteriorating your clothes, it's putting toxins into the environment, it's affecting, it's probably exposing you to cancer, and then it's definitely exposing ocean life to cancer. So, or mutagens, and you know, we need our drinking water. You need your water clean. So the alternatives to this, instead of kabooming your clothes, and, you know, I put a few videos down below. If you want to learn about sulfites, we're going to talk about that again when we get into shampoos, because they're all over shampoos too. But, you know, sulfurs is a cleaning agent. And not all of them, you know, some of them have natural bases, but some of them, you know, definitely SLES, sodium lauryl sulfate is not good. And it's the number one on our, as a consumer, it's what's put front and foremost. So the alternative is, and I see a lot of environments, a lot of my fashion channels talk about this, is instead of going for these bottled, crazy, brightly neon colored, you know, carcinogenic nightmare detergents, go for the dissolvable sheet detergents. The dissolvable sheet detergents like Earth Breeze, and you can get that off Amazon. I get mine off Amazon. It's just little sheets of detergent. The detergent list is natural. It does have cleansing agents in it, but it's phosphate free. It doesn't have any of the more harsher chemicals. And I always go with the fragrance free option because I don't need fragrance in that. When I wear my clothes and put perfume on, that's enough. One thing with washer sheets is you do want to care about, you know, whether or not they are washing machine compatible. A lot of washing machines, there was a great video by Shelley that talked about that too. There's a lot of things that you can make homemade, and there's a lot of videos that talk about how you can make homemade detergents for laundry. You don't want to do that with laundry detergent. It's highly encouraged because you can very easily damage your washing machine when you do that. You do want to you'll see that a lot of these, you know, these washer sheet detergents are HE certified, which means it's not going to harm your washing machine. And it's also nice because if you do have one of those pull-out drawers, instead of just dropping it in with your wash, if you have one of those pull-out drawers, if it's certified compatible with that, then you're not damaging your machine. But it's a really great alternative, and the nice thing is that it's sheets. I actually, my family members joke with me, they're like, what are you doing? Is this stationary? No, you can rip off how much you need. If it's a smaller batch, you just rip it off like it's a piece of paper. I do still wash my hands after touching it because it is still, it's still a detergent, but it dissolves in water. Also, real quick, in the same vein as laundry detergents, you see a lot of stain sticks, like a lot of those little, you see a lot of those pens that are encased in plastic and contain all of the same detergent ingredients for when you get a stain. So you get a stain on you and you're like, oh, let me grab my Tide pen, or let me grab this little completely plastic full of all of the sulfate, detergent to treat the stain. There are organic solutions to that as well. There are organic oil bars that are similar to these shampoo bars that we're going to talk about in the future, but instead of using all of these harsh detergents that are bad for the environment and come in plastic packaging, you can use a detergent bar to treat stains, and it works just as well as as a detergent or any other treatment that you can buy that is the commercial and harsher treatments. And there's no bottles. The packaging is paper, and I'll put the video below where you could just recycle it or compost it, honestly, and that's a good way to go. Now, the second thing is drying. Dryer sheets are just as bad as detergent. If you look at the list of ingredients and fragrances, if you Google any of those names, you would be shocked at the number of chemicals. It's all toxic, and it's all of the same crap that we've been talking about. So instead of using dryer sheets, And again, ideally, if you could go fragrance free, that's the way you want to go too. It's like, you don't have to have a bunch of smelly stuff, you know. Honestly, it just conflicts with your perfume or your cologne anyway. So, you know, why do you need that? It's actually an irritant to the skin as well. I've seen a lot of people have allergic reaction to synthetic fragrances in their detergents. But instead of going with dryer sheets, which are, you know, unbiodegradable, you know, covered in chemicals, another thing that you can do is there's something called dryer balls. Now, also in the vein of the non-eco-friendly is that dryer balls kind of started in a silicone form. My mom actually sent me a pair of these, but they're very cheap. You can get them at Walmart, and they look like they almost look like a little mace. Like they look like a little ball with spikes. And what it is when you throw it in the dryer, it helps your clothes dry quicker because the balls roll around. And you know how when clothes go in the dryer, they kind of lump there. So as it's moving, while the clothes are still wet, they're really kind of lumped together and they're not moving. So the balls, when they roll around the dryer, help get the clothes moving. And when the clothes get separated and moving and rotating, it helps them dry faster, so it saves you energy. Now, instead of using synthetic or silicone balls, which are not, I mean, silicone balls can potentially be recyclable, but they're not the greatest. Instead of doing that, go with wool balls. And you know I love me some wool, right? But there is, and this is actually also available on Amazon. But it's a set of 2, just like the silicone ones. They don't pill, but they're just a big wool ball. And there's 2 of them. So what it is you throw that in with your dryers, and they're no fragrance. It's 100% wool. And so it does the same thing that the silicone balls do. They just roll around. And I think I spent like $7.99 for 2 of these at Whole Foods. And all you do is just throw them in with the dryer. They don't shrink. They don't have any smell that I can tell. I know sometimes wool has a little bit of that lanolin smell, but I've never had that problem, and I've never seen any pilling with this. So it does the same thing that the silicone does, is that it helps your clothes dry quicker. And honestly, the lanolin in it makes it soft without any extra fragrance, without putting any chemicals next to your body, and it helps soften your clothes. So this is a great way to go in lieu of dryer sheets and in lieu of silicone. Now, the other thing is, just like we talked earlier when we talk about pilling, you know, because a lot of these natural fibers, they're natural fibers, right? They shed. Now, when you talk about lint and other things, a lot of these fibers will, you know, cotton, linen, hemp, silk, and wool, they wrinkle a lot, and sometimes, especially with the wool, that you'll get more pilling. Now, with pilling, you have a couple of options. You can get a good old lint brush, and there are lint brushes that are wood, and I have a plastic one, unfortunately. But the nice thing is that instead of having one of those lint rollers that is like a plastic handle with reusable strips, this one is just, you never have to replace anything on it, and it does, you know, with cotton and linen, this gets all of the fuzzies off you. Now, when it came to the one, that nightmare sweater that was pilling way too much, you might need a fuzzy eater, you know, like a sweater shaver. Now, this one I did buy used at a thrift store, and it is vintage. It's a Remington one. It's small. And believe it or not, I got it for $2.99. It had a Bradley sticker on it. So this thing is bought secondhand. It is bought new from a thrift store. And it is definitely vintage, because I think Bradley's closed in like 1999. And then the battery that I use inside of it is a rechargeable one. So even though it's plastic, but what you can do is you can shave, you know, you can shave the little fuzzies off, but hopefully you don't have to do that too much. Now, the last thing that you can do to avoid all of those machine, because I really don't like having devices. I don't like to have a whole lot of gadgets to do my care of my clothes, is that there are packaging tapes that are biodegradable. Like they're completely, like, you can, and the nice thing about this is kind of twofold. You can use it for more than one purpose. The packaging tape can be used to package things for mailing, and we're going to do a video about how eco mailing and packaging. So you can have a roll of this tape for that purpose. But the other thing is that just like with a lint roller, instead of having an actual handle, you can just cut off a piece of this tape, roll it into a circle, and just with your hand rub it across. And I've used this to to dust things. I've used this to you just hold, you put it into a circle, use your hand and just roll it across anything that's pilling, and it'll pull up all of the wool. And because the tape itself is biodegradable, and the fiber, if it's a wool sweater, that's biodegradable, when you throw it in the trash, that's a really eco-friendly way of getting rid of fuzz. But when it comes to this, you want to, just like we want to care what's in the content of our clothes, we want to care what's in the contents of our detergents. Even though they're only on our body for 5 seconds, they linger in our clothes, they cause allergic reactions, and they sit in waterways for a really long time. Like earlier when I mentioned the manatees, we talk so much, a lot of the manatees have been dying off, and we think it's because of it is partially because of global warming, because they have a migration circuit around the south areas of the United States, and when the water temperatures change, that impacts them. But it's also the water quality. If they're sitting in a bunch of wastewater that is full of sulfites, or the stuff that we wash down the drain, that is impacting their health, and that is impacting our health. So when you think about it, look at what's in your detergent. Look at what's in your dryer sheets. Look at what is in the material of your clothes. Don't be washing microplastics down the water. And again, if it comes down to it, and it's not to be gloom and doom, think of it like Arizona. Think about it, if tomorrow was a post-apocalyptic future and I had to filter my own drinking water, would I want myself to be washing that Kaboom or Febreze stuff down the drain? Because that goes a long way with helping the environment. But I want to thank you for joining me today. I know this was a more serious topic. It's not all gloom and doom. If you think about these choices, think about what's in the detergents that we use, making the change is really easy. It saves you money, it's good for the planet, and honestly, in the long run, you don't really notice that anything is different, but you still get the same end result. And that's the way that we want to go. But I want to thank you again for joining me. I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.